you can speak for 4 minutes. Next caucus meeting should take place in January. We can then appoint a new moderator, and if the procedure in this room tonight does not satisfy you guys, you want to see changes in the way this goes down, make those suggestions in January. But as a publicly advertised open meeting, we as a legislative body can do exactly as we please. That is the words from Senior Counsel of the Tennessee Comptroller's Office. So everybody feel free to speak at will regarding all of these subjects on tonight's agenda, or tomorrow night's agenda, I put that way. And remember, we are not voting. We are asking questions. We're getting answers. We are deliberating. We can reach conclusions, but we are never to actually vote. That's in the business meeting. Just want to be sure everybody understands that. Okay, tomorrow night, I'm going to run all the way down to the number 8 line. That would be resolutions of memorials, sympathy, proclamations, and commendations. Does anybody have any questions or comments regarding these memorials, sympathy, proclamations, or commendations?
Yeah, Dennis, I would like to have a full American flag on the cloth here tomorrow night.
That, as long as that's appropriate flag etiquette, I don't think anybody would have a problem with it.
I'll revert to Commissioner Brown.
Displayed on the wall right behind his chair, I think if you hung it properly, that would be okay, would it not?
I would still defer to the rules on that. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but decorum. Decorum.
I talked to the mayor today. He said he's going to have a candle set over here tomorrow night and something else on the chair. So.
That's a good idea, Commissioner Morris. Thanks for bringing that up. Moving to number 9, elections, appointments, and confirmations. Of course, we'll have a parliamentarian committees. Let's see. Are we having appointments in November? I thought we had committee appointments was either September or January. Has anybody had time to run through the 220 pages yet? Tim Morris, is this committee appointments for next year? Is that what this agenda item is?
I thought we did January.
Exactly. That's what I didn't understand when I saw it on the agenda, that we're voting for a kitchen.
What's the tag on 9B?
Well, I'm looking at 9A and 9B, unless there's vacancies to be filled. I'm assuming nobody knows. Gary Cordell had his hand up. Yes, sir.
Law enforcement is in November. Appointments in November.
10-4, thank you. Okay, I guess we'd learn more about that tomorrow night since none of us know. Moving on down to the Policies and Procedures Committee approval of Andy Fair. You want to tell us about that,
We had a vacancy where Alan had resigned, and we had talked as a committee, so we've elected we're approving Andy Farrell, so that's what we're at. We just gotta have a full commission vote for it.
Okay.
Testing, okay. Alan resigned. Lindley? From our committee because of his, the health of his parents. So he's helping primary care, help giver. So, we have met as our committee, and we actually voted for, our committee's already voted for Andy Farrell, and we've talked to Andy and kind of filled him in where we're at, and he would volunteer to take his place. Policy and procedure.
Okay, we have judicial commissioners. I don't see a attachment number by that. There should be nominations, I'm assuming, from the mayor. Let's move right along. I don't see, that's never a controversial subject, is it, Tim? Judicial Commission.
No, they're probably just approving every year like they do. They may have one addition or something like that.
The only question there was in the meeting, that the two people that were nominated, didn't have any kind of, law enforcement training. And the question came up, typically we have somebody with some kind of law enforcement training. And we were told that there wasn't a requirement.
Yeah, they were short, and they were hiring two new judicial commissioners, and that was what we were voting on, was to, by the resumes that were sent down, to approve the two that had put in. And we voted on those, and that was a question that come up, was, did it have to be a law enforcement background? They were very qualified, but they had no law enforcement background, but that's not a requirement for that position, we were told.
I guess we can,
And
go ahead.
I got a little text here saying that there are no new committee appointments. We're just ratifying the ones that we agreed upon in September. Now, with Andy, since we had one off, that might be an appointment, but other than that, there's no new committee.
Okay, that makes sense, but I would assume when we approve the minutes from the last meeting, that automatically makes conclusive all the business that we did in the prior meeting. Okay, moving right along, the animal shelter update. I think everybody's well aware that Tullahoma resident Tom Rice has donated right around 3 acres of the old Galen Fan property that's going to be used for that. We have, capital outlay has started the we're selecting the architect and design firm at this point. We're moving on to health department construction status. There's no update on that. We're still waiting on construction drawings.
Hey, excuse me, Dennis. We're gonna have a ceremony on the 7th of December. That's a Thursday at 2 p.m.
So that date has been set?
That's been set aside, yes.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be like a groundbreaking. And I did notice that the sheriff, have you guys done any work over there at all yet?
Yes.
I mean, I saw a lot of stuff cleaned up. I didn't know if that was you guys.
Just a little bit of policing and then, I guess, bush hogging.
10-4, thank you. All right. Then we got 10C, which is discuss the serving county's rural residents with water service update. Do you have anything for that, Commissioner Morris? Okay.
Right now, we're just sitting waiting on Manchester to be able to move forward. He's talked to West Warren. I don't know what they discussed in that meeting.
Okay. In new business, that'd be 11A, the Planning Commission hearing. And I'm sure that's the one everybody's dreading, but I'm gonna wait and, I am, in this room, I'm the only member of the Planning Commission, and I'm the only commissioner on the Planning Commission. I'll be glad to answer any question, but I'll let any member in here want to start off the discussion. I'll probably refrain any comment, unless I'm asked for it.
I believe it be appropriate that you abstain from comment.
Do what?
Mr. Hunt, I believe it be appropriate that you abstain from comment, other than the announcement. Thank you.
I would not agree with that, because I am a Coffee County Commissioner, an elected position. So I do have the right to speak to this because our Planning Commission is being charged and asked to be removed by this legislative body of which I am a member.
Mr. Hunt, you've made my point. I believe that's why your comments and things of that nature, you should abstain.
Well, I will choose not to. I thank you for your advice, but I don't agree with it, therefore I will not abide by it. And let me declare that I have said I won't comment unless I'm asked to. I'm the only member of the Planning Commission here.
Mr. Hunt, that's not true, number one. Number one, there are members of the commission that are here. I can see one of them.
Okay. Moving right along. Who wants to open it up, please?
We're talking about the planning commission, correct? We are talking about the planning commission.
Correct.
Okay.
The hearing.
Okay, so starting off, we're being asked to remove people on the planning commission, or my understanding is that they did not meet certain criteria, and we're gonna remove all 5 of y'all because criteria set forth. Your training hours were not turned in to somebody, which the way I understand it is it's supposed to be turned into the planning commission itself.
Let's not go very far. Mr. Hunt is the secretary of
Okay,
the
I'm not
planning
even going,
commission.
this is open, I just wanna go, okay?
Exactly.
Holding back ain't gonna do nothing except just keep us trudging in this mess, and we're gonna wind up looking like the people down there in Nashville. I just wanna get it fixed and move forward with Coffee County business. I'm just asking, am I correct that our administration wants to remove all 5 of y'all because you did not supposedly have training?
You want to answer the question?
Mr. Hunt, I believe your comments are inappropriate because I think, at this point, I think you need to abstain.
Well, can you answer that then?
I'm gonna try, Mr. Morris. Yes, there is a vote. There is a vote pursuant to statute. Do I have to hold this thing down? Yep. Okay, thank you. There is a vote that will take place tomorrow evening, with regard to the statute, that is set forth with regard to the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission, is created by statute. It is governed by statute. We have not complied with the statute. So, as far as how this, as far as how the proceeding takes place, it is before this it's before this full commission about how the commission wants to handle it. Now, as far as is the Planning Commission in compliance with the statute, I think the legal answer is no. I think the absolute answer is no. So, you know, that's the legal opinion, and I believe it to be correct. And I have read the statute, I have read the case law associated with it, and so, anyway, the statute speaks very clear. This was created by statute, and it is governed by statute.
Okay.
Mr. Cunningham, you're recognized to speak.
First of all,
Yes,
our
sir, Steve.
planning commission, I laid some papers in front of some of you. Our planning commission is not created by statute. Our planning commission is created by resolution in 2001, which makes the planning commission the convening authority. And you guys want to go back and say, oh, it's the state's the state. No, it's not the state. It is the local planning commission, the local legislative body that is responsible for the planning commission. Nowhere does it say that training has to go anywhere but in the codes department. And I don't know if any of you folks have looked at what Bill Reeder, our lawyer, the only reason we hired a lawyer is because the mayor wouldn't talk to us. I went to try to explain to the mayor why he was wrong, but he wouldn't talk to me. He asked Ed to talk to me. And I respect you very much, Ed, but you're wrong in this case. The planning commission itself has on file, and you'll see this in Billy Reeder's, if you'll read Billy Reeder's email, and I know you've got 240 pages of BS to read, and I think that was done for a reason. You read Mr. Reeder's email, and he goes through the whole thing one at a time. He also has in that email all the training sessions, the sign-in sheets, Mr. Sam Edwards' invoices, and the subject that we covered. That's all in the planning commission, okay? Every bit of it is in the codes office. That's all that's required of us. We have one little extra that no one else that this other stuff doesn't have. We're all watching each other. This training is being done here in Coffee County. The last one was done right here. The mayor of Manchester came and attended this, but our mayor, who was right across the hall, didn't even stick his head in here. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I want to keep government local. I don't think you need the state in here any more than they have to be. Mr. Edwards will be here tomorrow night. He's our trainer to answer any questions. But please read Bill Reeder's email. He explains it all very well. It shows the training, the sign-in sheets, and everything. And guess what? We got 20 to 30 people from the city and the county that can swear that we were all here. If you go somewhere and get a little certificate, who knows if you had that computer generated and brought it back, you might have spent the day at Hooters. Who knows? So I thank you very much for letting me speak, Mr. Hunt. And Ed, I just disagree with you.
Well, on this matter, I've, you know, of course, I've been studying this quite a while, and to have, you know, we're trying to drag stuff in from the state to run our county on statutes, but I've seen all the paperwork that I personally need to see. I don't have a certificate one that says I'm a commissioner except for the one that the judge signed when I got sworn in. I don't have a certificate on any training from CTASC at all where I did all my training and kept it up. But yet we're arguing over a certificate or where they've done their training. When I see signatures on a piece of paper, that tells me they either was there or they weren't there. When I don't see a name on a piece of paper, I'd say they weren't there. But I see their names on paper that says they were at that meeting. So that tells me a little bit of something about what's going on. I personally don't want this to turn into a Nashville show, number one, especially in front of our county system. That's why I'm glad we're talking about it tonight. But this has got to get put to where it needs to be put at, and I'm very disappointed with what's being done with it. I'll just tell you, that's my opinion, but this should have never even came to light at all. Should have been in-house, took care of. This is not in-house taken care of. But, and Ed, I've known you for a long time, and I respect you dearly, but this one I think is not gonna fly. I just don't think the way this is being handled is gonna work. We got 2 of these commissioners are coming off in January, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes, huh? Okay. And I don't see the reasoning for this at all, except for a couple items, but if we're talking about a certificate to have for each one of these people on the planning commission, you do not have to have a certificate in your file if you're trained on this facility or in this town. That's the way it is. If you have to have a certificate, that means you trained out of this county, and you have to have that certificate for proof that you were in that planning committee. That's the only reason you have to have a certificate. I can hold up a certificate somewhere else, says I was trained to do something. Doesn't mean I was.
Mr. Hirschman, we're not talking about whether or not people were trained in other counties. We're not talking about certificates.
Sure we are.
If we were talking
Oh, we
about
are talking about that, Ed.
If we were talking about certificates, we'd be waiving them here, and we wouldn't.
Wait a minute.
This would not be the situation.
Are in my agenda. If we're not talking about a certificate, why is the doggone certificate for the mayor in my agenda?
To show that the mayor, Mr. Anderson, and Mr.
Duncan?
had taken the required training.
They did, and they did take that training. They got a certificate because they did it out of this town. That's how they got proof that they took the class.
Yes, sir. And
If you're in this town or in this county, you do not have to have a certificate. All you have to have is that sign-in sheet that shows that they were at that meeting.
No, sir. If you
I
read the
disagree with
statute,
that. It tells
the
me,
statute-
that
the
tells me they were
statute-
present for those meetings.
the statute says different. Now, I can only advise you on the law. So, and that's what I'm supposed to advise you on. And if we're not in compliance with the law, I feel obliged to tell you that. So vote however you want to, but if we're not in compliance with the law, I'm gonna say that. I have to.
I got a question.
Commissioner Hollingsworth?
Chairman Hunt, have you ever received and certified any statements from the planning commission members?
I serve as secretary. I'm gonna speak, okay? I serve as secretary of the planning commission, but by precedent and delegation of duties, our codes office takes care of all documentation, takes care of all of it is delegated to staff, and that staff is on full payroll. So that's where documents are generated and stored.
With respect to you, Mr. Hunt, if it's your responsibility and it wasn't done, I don't believe in blaming it on staff. I truly can't go.
Why is it back there? Why is it back there? If I didn't delegate the secretarial and document duties to staff, which happens across this government as well. All the minutes are produced by staff, which I do sign.
Mr. Hunt, if I sign off on it, it's my deal. And if it's not done correctly, then then I own it.
As I've told you, it's very subjective as whether or not it's done correctly. Your opinion is it wasn't done correctly. The matter is here, the procedure that has been outlined, the first letter that got sent out that nobody's even seen, has the mayor requesting only the 5 planning commission members to appeal to the Commissioner of Economic and Community Development, which has zero oversight over Coffee County's Planning Commission. If you were advising him, you made a terrible mistake if you were the individual advising. If you were not, then he did not do his due diligence by providing a letter asking for resignation and appeal it to the Commissioner of the Office of the Economic and Community Development. And I caught that. It took me about 5 days. And I sent the text messages. The whole stream has been provided to you guys, where I told him if he had taken my advice, step back, take a breath, and let this down the vine, we would not be here today. Because only the Coffee County legislative body has the authority to remove a planning commission. Only the Coffee County legislative body can submit a letter and ask for a hearing. We have not done that. Every single letter has come signed by the mayor of Coffee County. He has zero authority to have done that. So it's strictly a procedural, tactical error on his part. The proper procedure would have been for someone, any entity in the United States could have come to the legislative body and said, we have recognized deficiencies with your planning commission. We wish to bring this to the full legislative body for your consideration to issue the letter of the hearing to be had. That's not been done.
Mr. Hunt, I believe you were the person that pointed out the deficiencies with the planning commission.
I pointed out what? I didn't hear you.
I believe the emails and texts and whatever reflect that you were the person that pointed out the deficiencies with this committee, the planning committee.
Oh, yes, the mayor. I'll take 1% responsibility for us being where we at. Because the mayor during the campaign asked me what problems have I recognized in Coffee County government. And I said, the planning commission, I know, have voted on issues that one or more members have not received training. And he took that little ball and started rolling it into a big snowball. And the records keeping was never mentioned by me to anyone.
Mr. Hunt, that's not a little ball. No, it's a big ball now.
Well, I got a question. This goes back to 2022 documentation. Let's go. Okay, 2021, 22, 2017. Okay. Well, 2017, none of these people were even on there.
The file has been, I'm sorry, I don't know, I'm sorry, it's buzzing, so.
Your phone.
The file has been pretty lean with regard to the training of the planning commission, at least starting, well, at least 3 years ago.
But if they can go back and prove that they had the training and this documentation was wrong, I don't see why we don't accept that. I mean, if I get a driver's license ticket and I don't have it with me and I go before the judge, I prove that I've had my license the whole time, I just didn't have it on there. 99% of the time, he's gonna dismiss the charges against me, isn't he?
No, sir.
They're gonna give me a ticket anyway, they're gonna make me pay.
We can disagree with what the speed limit is all the time, but if we were,
I'm talking about not having my driver's license.
that is, I know, that we're getting off topic. But yes, I understand your I understand your analogy.
It was not filed. It was done and accomplished, but maybe not filed. And I can't see
We have an invoice from Sam Edwards.
Just like the dude down in Murfreesboro. He got paid too.
I don't know what Rutherford County does.
Well, I hope he got paid.
I didn't push my button.
We got a certificate. I hope he got paid.
I'm certain that he did.
Okay, but we also have a certificate that they were paid for. They got paid for, which to me says they did step 1, step 2, step 3 of training. We paid this guy to train them. Here's this, maybe the certificate didn't get handed out. We have documentation of it. I don't see the big deal. Let me also say, we have passed in our committee, we have passed a procedure, sent it to, Budget and Finance, and it basically died after they approved it. Why did it die? Because the head of Budget and Finance did not send it on to the next committee. Who was the next committee? It was supposed to be this full legislative body right here for us to vote on it. And so if that's the case, if we're gonna sit here and pick apart little technicalities, then we need to wipe out the whole doggone Budget and Finance Committee and let's start again. This is ridiculous.
Mr. Hirschman, I don't think we're picking apart anything.
It's the same thing. What's picking apart? What are we sitting here arguing about? We're arguing about.
Mr. Hirschman, I'm asking,
They don't have it on the agenda exactly the same, what they talk about, right? Yes? What do you talk about at a, hang on just a second, what do y'all talk about at a planning committee?
At the
Or the
planning,
The code part of it, yeah.
the training or at a meeting?
At a training meeting.
The training, we cover the land use, property rights, the implementation of our zoning resolution, which is our document. I mean, a lot of people don't understand it. This stack of resolutions we have here, 1 or 2 pages. This is our zoning resolution. It's a resolution, but it's a book. You have to know what's in this thing, page to page, if you're gonna sit there and tell people you can't do this or you can't do that. This is where you're gonna build. And we go through every bit of that, and the guy that trains us is pretty sharp. If it wasn't for him, Love's Truck Stop would be having trailer trucks blocking Old Hillsborough Highway. It was his recommendation that got the ingress-egress put on the major highway, just like it says in our book. The guy's pretty sharp.
But he also goes through the same stuff every year, is that not correct? So why are we arguing over exactly what's on the agenda as far as what they're talking about? Because it's a one-subject deal. That guy is coming in here to train them on exactly the same thing, any change that's made in that book. He's almost the one that actually started the book, to write that book. He's not just some flunky
which book?
that they're being
Which book
trained.
are
This
we
guy
talking
who's they're training it from is one of the head people that started most of that stuff in that book.
I cannot
I can.
confirm or deny that.
I can.
I have looked at the
I have done
statute
my
ad
homework.
nauseam.
Ed, I've done my homework, and y'all need to do yours. This stuff is ridiculous. I'm sorry, but it's just ridiculous.
Mr. Hirschman, respectfully, he's not quoted in the statute. He's not quoted in the legislative minutes, which would have passed the statute. I appreciate it. I've never given a topic such as this to a planning commission. I've never done that. But with regard to his training records, none have been provided to this commission. None. There's a sign-up sheet. I can get you a sign-up sheet for most anything.
Or in that office in there. I'm sorry. Or in the codes department office. It's the ones that you guys have sat there, printed and sent out to everybody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you're saying they weren't in that office in there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, how'd they get there?
Well, that's how you have them, is because
If I need to see that, I can know where to go here.
Yes, sir.
Are you saying it's just because they weren't presented to all of us in here, is that what the big problem is?
No, sir. No.
What is the problem?
That's not correct.
What's the problem then?
The statute provides
Dennis, can I ask you a
Mr.
question?
Ed, hold-
This has
just
been
one
out, yeah,
quick-
me, just one thing. This
Go
has been
ahead.
out in public. What does the planning commission do? It does not go out and recruit people to come and build here. It oversees how people build in our community. You don't go out and recruit people to come in here. You are guiding people on how they are supposed to build according to our codes, correct?
That's it.
So you don't go out and bring people in and say, come on down here, Velcro, and build such and such plant. You tell them how they have to set with the setbacks and stuff. You're not a recruiting entity.
The planning commission
Mr.
also
Ed.
denies
Mi-
requests.
Mr. Ed, as our county attorney, can you advise us commissioners how many lawsuits are against, right now, how much litigation is there against Coffee County regarding any zoning issue that our planning commission has addressed?
Right now, I mean, that's the elephant in the room, isn't it? I mean, we've already gone through that.
How many? And has that been adjudicated? Are we done with that one?
No, sir.
Don't you think this is really gonna puff up their attorneys when they go in? Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Coffee County's executive officer is saying that their planning commission is not legitimate. Why are we even talking about this anymore?
Mr. Hunt, I appreciate your comment. I can advise you on the law, and I can advise you on deficiencies in the law. It's not my job to advise you what, what. I appreciate your position. I appreciate your position. I would hope that this commission runs itself in a manner that is consistent with the law. Now, if you choose not to conduct yourself in accordance with the law, then do whatever you want to.
Is any other commissioner, there's a lot of people being quiet. I would really like to recognize some commissioners to speak, please. Commissioner Reed, please.
So there's 7 people on the committee, right?
On the commission.
So 5 of them are not eligible, supposedly. What was the difference in the 2 that were and the 5 that wasn't? What was the difference in it?
Okay, I posted a pretty neat little video today on Facebook that elementary school people can understand what's going on in this county. I used 5 colored cups of a different color than 2 and showed that of the 7 commissioners, planning commissioners, 6 of them, 5 of them were appointed by the former Mayor Gary Cordell. 2 of them were appointed earlier this year by our current mayor, Judd Matheny. Of those 7, during training day, 6 showed up and received the training, along with our codes enforcement office personnel, along with our Board of Zoning Appeals members, along with Manchester City's Boards of Zoning Appeal, Manchester City's Planning Commission, Manchester City's Codes Enforcement personnel, and the mayor of Manchester. That was a room full of people. Not a seat was empty. All of us trained together except one of Mayor Matheny's appointments, who, because he works for UPS, he just could not get off. So he had a pretty legitimate excuse for not, and he had all the way through December the 31st of this year to obtain the required training. The rest of us did. Because for some reason or other, it's become public record. It's in our agenda. Mayor Matheny, the individual that could not make the training, and one of the individuals that did go to our training, took a private trip, only other way to explain it, to, as I put it, an entity or individual trained them that our planning commission or this legislative body is not familiar with. As long as they have the credentials to do it, I have no problem with the training that they received. But I do know that the 6 individuals that did receive the training were legally trained. Does that help, or did that answer your question or not? Okay, thank you. Anybody else? I'd like for anybody to speak. Commissioner
Hunt,
Hott.
I have a question. What is the statute or the law that is supposedly this planning commission has broken? I'm sorry I got in here late. I've just come from East
It's
Tennessee.
the documentation, because the statute, it's literal. You know, I mean, if you want to review it literally, it says that the documentation must be filed that says where the training took place, what was the subject covered, who provided the training. That is the documentation that we might be a little lax on. So, and I need to explain, this TCA requirement goes way back. When Tennessee first entered into and felt the need for zoning and land use oversight, the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development started setting out guidelines. There were counties, they went to all these individual counties, and they went to these counties and told them, here's what you need to do. You need to set up a planning commission, you need to have codes enforcement. A lot of these little small rural Appalachian counties could not afford to do that. So there were multi-county regional planning districts were set up by the Department of Economic Community Development. The Commissioner of Economic Community Development oversaw these multi-county regional planning divisions. Coffee County, by resolution, set itself up as a single county regional planning commission. Therefore, there's 2 different areas, 2 different requirements for the removal, let's put it that way, and the placement. In the multi-county, the Commissioner of Economic and Community Development selects the Planning Commission members. In those instances, when a Planning Commission member is found to be need of removal for cause, the Commissioner of the Economic and Community Development does the removal, has the hearing, provides a notification to the members, and that's how it's decided. This is why the first letter sent out to these 5 members was so badly in error that they required the resignation, and if you don't respond, you're automatically resigned. And if you do respond and you want to contest your required resignation, you will have a hearing before the Commissioner of the Economic and Community Development, which is why I went to the mayor and said, this is where you're so wrong. This is not how it's done. Just stop. Then it took over 30 days, and I was hoping he had taken my advice and was going to drop it. But he didn't. He sent out a second letter. It is just as badly in error because it came from the mayor's office, that letter by TCA. It's in the language that's been provided in here by TCA. The full legislative body of the county must submit the letter to the individual planning commission members. That has not happened.
Mr. Hunt, you're in error, but go ahead.
I
I don't want to stop you mid-sentence, but you're in error.
I'm what?
You're in error.
No, you are. It's in the print. All you have to do is read the sentence. There's only 2 ways that a planning commissioner can be notified of a hearing and for removal, and that's from the office of the Commissioner of Economic and Community Development or the full legislative body. It's in the statute.
No, sir. There are notification
Y'all talk
procedures.
while
There
I
are
show Ed the
notification
document, okay?
procedures, and that's what you've received.
Somebody want to speak? Go ahead.
You want somebody to speak, I will. It's my understanding the commission can overrule or agree with the planning commission's criteria anyway.
Excellent point. The Planning Commission makes no binding decisions. The Planning Commission only recommends. The lawsuit that we just discussed, they're not suing the Planning Commission, they're suing Coffee County and the full legislative body. We are the ones that make the decision. The Planning Commission just affirms binding decisions and requirements of this document, which is our zoning resolution. The only thing that you are bound by in Coffee County regarding zoning and land use is in this document. If you disagree, or if there's something that needs to be sent up the steps, it comes here, or the Board of Zoning Appeals. And in either case, even there's some decisions can be made in here that the Board of Zoning Appeals may be able to challenge, maybe not. But when it reaches the Board of Zoning Appeals, it's only challengeable in a court of law. That's a good point, Dwight.
So, Mr. Hunt, to address my original question, are we in violation of some statute or some law?
Very subjective. Very subjective.
In other
There's
words,
all kinds of documentation.
There's not a printed or established or certified law that we're in violation of with this committee in the training or whatever.
Not in my and most people's opinion.
Well, I'm not interested in opinion. I'm talking about statutes of the state of Tennessee or the laws of Coffee County or whatever you're referring to. What is the law? Because you said, okay, that whoever violated and didn't do something right. My point is, it doesn't matter what my opinion is or what my emotions are. What is the law and what are the statutes? And if we're going to do something right in Coffee County and keep the faith and trust of our people, we need to do it by the book. And we don't need to be emotional. We don't need to be opinionated. We need to go by the statute. Now, I'm a freshman, and I've said that several times, and I might be ignorant of a lot of different things, but I want to know what the truth is. The truth is in the statutes or the laws that are there on the books. And we need to be doing that, whatever it is. And, you know, we might have opinions about what we think it ought to be, but until we change it or do something different, we need to be abiding by whatever those guidelines are. Now, in that statute, if we violate that statute, is there a provision where we can correct what we did? I haven't seen that in that statute. All it says is, you know, resignation or fire, whatever. But again, I go back to my original statement. We need to be doing it by the book, not by what we think, not by what our opinion is, but what does the law state? And I haven't heard a clear definition of what actually is the statute from the state of Tennessee or the statute from Coffee County government or whatever that we're going by. We're arguing a lot of points and a lot of good definitions, and people can support their position. But all that is null and void in the light of what is the actual statute and the law. That's my point. And I'll yield back.
Okay, I mean, you made excellent points. I would like to say, when I was explaining these multi-county regional planning commissions, this language in the TCA that makes these requirements are mainly because I could live in Crossville and go get training. I could live in Greenville, Tennessee, and go somewhere and get training. And I could go, if I lived down here in Decatur, Tennessee, and I'm in this regional area. The statute was written to be sure that these individuals on their own go out and get somebody that they need to have the documentation to prove that that individual had the credentials to properly train them in land use and zoning. And more importantly, when they turn in these documents to the Commissioner of Economic and Community Development, then you are being reimbursed with public funds. Otherwise, people could just say, yeah, I got trained here, I need my $200 back. So that's the reason for the stringent language, which this Office of Codes Enforcement sponsors our Planning Commission. And the domino effect here is it's monumental. You're saying if you vote to remove these members for this little minor infraction, and I will say the statute says may. It does not say shall be removed. It says may be removed. Our employees in the Codes Enforcement Office are bound by the exact same requirements. They did exactly the same day, same training, same documentation. Our Board of Zoning Appeals the same way.
Mr.
And by
Hunt, that is
default,
not a
you're
correct
you're
statement
saying
of the
that
law.
Manchester City's Planning Commission that received the same training and the same documentation, they must be vacated as well. It's
Mr. Hunt, we're not here
ridiculous
about
that we are
Manchester
even
City.
considering this matter.
Mr. Hunt, number one, the statute applies to the planning commission. It doesn't apply to employees of the county, and it doesn't
This-
apply to it doesn't apply to Manchester for sure, because that's a whole different set of statutes.
You have not read the document. You've obviously not read the TCA requirement. All personnel, codes
All
enforcement,
personnel of
the
a
codes
municip-
enforcement
all
are bound by the
personnel of a
exact same
municipality,
rules.
All personnel of a municipal, Manchester can deal with this situation the way that it wants to deal with it. What we're talking about right now is 13.3.101, and it goes into subsection J, and that deals with what you're talking about as far as curative measures. Now, the curative measures are set forth in subsection J. Now, what subsection J says is that this full commission can vote and take themselves out of the requirements set forth in the previous sections. But we're in violation of it without having set forth, without having voted on the fact that we're in violation of it. Now, respectfully, Mr. Hodge, we're not in compliance with the statute, so there. And I don't know how, I know how it got passed. It got passed by the legislature. And to honor the tone of what the legislature has said, we are not in compliance, so there.
Go ahead, Commissioner Nettles.
I actually have a couple of questions, but I'll start with, when you say we're not in compliance, are we not in compliance because that documentation wasn't sent to the state?
No.
Why are we not?
We don't know what the training requirement, I don't know. I don't know if this Senator Edwards, he's a lawyer from there. That's all I know.
Okay, my next question is, if this committee, planning commission is not in compliance at the time, is there a way for the current members to get in compliance, or do they have to be removed?
As I stated, the TCA statute says may be removed, so they do not have to be removed, okay? May, not shall.
There's not, pursuant to the statutes, there's not an avenue for that. All I can do is advise you on the law.
It gets right back down to whatever the commission.
Sir?
I said, when it gets right down to it, it's whatever the commission votes on.
Yes,
would-
the full
I would-
legislative body they're in the driver's seat on this. You can vote it up or down, but that is the correct.
I would tell you though, that there has been an opinion from the state of Tennessee Attorney General's opinion, which finds us, our county, in violation of the statute. So there has been that finding.
No, Ed, that's not.
Yes, sir, I'm afraid it does.
Mr. Cunningham, you raised your hand earlier. I'll allow you to speak if nobody else wants to speak from the audience.
Mr. Hodge, to answer your questions, I just gave you a sheet. he keeps talking about the statute. The statute covers every kind of planning commission creation there is. The first paragraph on what I gave you sets us aside as a single county regional planning commission. That takes all the state away from it, and it makes all of you the convening authority on this. Our documentation, our training, our records go to the local codes office. It does not go to the state. It does not go to the Commissioner of Economic Development. It doesn't do anything like that. Okay? It gives you guys the power. I don't think you were here earlier, but please read what our lawyer sent, Bill Reeder sent. It's got a note from our planner, and by the way, our planner, you may not know him, but they know him at the state. He does work for CTAS and MTAS. He authored part of this, and he's been training us since 2017. And let me tell you something. Planning Commission's got a pretty good record. We've had one lawsuit, and so far in court, we've had 2 favorable opinions, and now from what I understand, they're they're judge shopping to try to go again. But that's the only problem we've ever had. It's funny that the mayor of the county would bring that up, and it's funny that the mayor of the county would go to get training and not ask anybody else to go. He didn't ask the people that work here. He didn't ask any of the rest of us to go. Just he and 2 people he appointed. We're going to go down to Murfreesboro and get training. And that's good. I'm not making fun of that at all. Rodney would have had to get training before the 31st of December, and he's qualified now to see it. But if you read the rest of this, it covers who we have to report to, when we have to report, and in the bottom, Ed, just for your information, it says that the Planning Commission chooses who trains them. Not, the mayor should have nothing to do with this. He has no power when it comes to the Planning Commission, absolutely none. It's the legislative body that has the power. And, but please read that. Please look at the evidence that Bill Reeder sent. I told the rest of them, I know there's 240 pages to read, but if you read anything, I don't think there's anything on your agenda tomorrow, and I respect everything that's on there more important than this. So thank you very much. I just wanted to speak to him, Dennis. Thank you.
Chairman Hunt, I got a question for Mr.
Go ahead.
North. Mr. North, does state law, does it supersede county resolutions?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What was that answer?
Yes.
Not in this case. It's the state law. The state has passed
The statute sets forth the requirements.
If you read the whole statute, Ed, there's a paragraph there, I, right before you talking about J, that tells you that the region, when you form your own single county regional planning commission, you are the convening authority, not the state.
To
Sorry,
comply with the state requirements.
Do what?
To comply with the state requirements.
There is no requirement from the state, I'm sorry, not unless it goes through the Office of Economic Development.
Mr. Cunningham, let me pose a question to you. If that be the case, then why is anybody taking training to begin with?
We're taking training because the county's mandated this. I've lost my planning book, but it's underlined in there, Ed. That resolution tells everything.
13th, the statute sets forth the requirements of a planning commission.
The state of
The
Tennessee
training.
passed our book before we did, okay? The state of Tennessee passed our book before we did, and we passed it in 2001, and really, that's the convening authority over everything.
So it is your position that the county preempts state legislation? It'll be real easy that way. I mean, it's real easy if you just say that the county can trump what state requirements are.
Of a single county regional planning commission to the planning commission.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. No, Mr. Hollingsworth, we can't pass laws that are we cannot, we have to comply with state statutes.
Since we are an extension of the state legislature locally here in Coffee County, then I would say we were in subjection to whatever the statutes are. It sounds like you're telling me that we have independent control and we can ignore the state.
We have independent control of our zoning and land use, yes.
And so we're not responsible to the state for that,
No, and
in your opinion.
the mayor keeps hitting everybody over the head with a megasite, if the megasite comes in, the planning commission will not have any authority over it because the state has sovereignty.
All right. Mr. Cunningham, I understand your question now. Now, as far as how we use our land, yes, as far as whether it comes before a committee on a subdivision or a reclassification of land or things of that nature, which would ordinarily come up before the planning commission, yes, we would have that authority. But as far as the training requirements for the people that sit on that board, that is controlled by statute.
Mr. Hodge, we will have an attorney here tomorrow night named Mr. Sam Edwards. Please ask him that question.
Well, I've sat here all night, and I think I'm a little more confused than when I came here tonight. I guess my biggest question is if we sent our resolution to the state of Tennessee and they approved it, that's how we govern. Is that correct or no?
With respect to you, Mr. Hobbs, what resolution?
The planning commission book that they keep talking about, the zoning resolution.
Yes, sir. I'm just making sure.
So, I mean, I guess it goes back to, you know, why is the state, I mean, why are we confusing the two? If we have something the state approved that says that we're okay to use it as our guidelines, and are they in compliance with that? Or are you just saying they're not in compliance with a state that has nothing to do with that?
The statute requirements for sitting on the planning commission have not been satisfied, Mr. Hobbs.
That's per the book that these guys are talking about.
That's per the statute from the state of Tennessee.
Sir, going back to your question and your statement about an attorney being here tomorrow night, is that attorney an official with the state of Tennessee? Is he with the judicial?
That attorney is Mr. Sam Edwards. He is a member of AICP. That's the professional planners. He's also a very accomplished attorney, and he is the author of most of 13-3-101, is part of it, what I put in front of you.
Okay, so he's not actually with the state of Tennessee judiciary or anything like that. He's just an independent attorney that works in this area of specialty that you were talking about.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last.
Yeah, he's just the attorney in this area of specialty that you're talking about.
Right, just
He helped to
like
author.
Mr. North is not, you know, there you go.
All right. My total attention in this is try to, you know, we've got people that talk for the state. We can hire lawyers and bring our opinions. Again, my whole purpose is let's find out what the statute is. If we're in violation of the statute, let's see what we can do to fix that, and let's continue on. We don't need to confuse the issue. If you get to the facts and you get to the statute, you take all the confusion and the emotion out of it, because here it is. This is what we've got to do.
I just put it in front of you.
And in my mind, I'm sitting here going, what is that? And I have yet to find that, and I appreciate you guys speaking to that issue, because it gives me more insight to what's going on. So thank you, sir.
Mr. Hodge, there will most likely be a representative from the State of Tennessee Comptroller's Office tomorrow evening as well. He doesn't do continuing education hours on planning stuff, but he's fairly knowledgeable in this area.
I've got the Tennessee Attorney General's opinion in my hands with the language highlighted that I referenced earlier. The commissioner, the county legislative body, whichever, must serve written notice to the planning commission. Yes. This has not, we have not served notice to any planning commission. You are not in the, you are not a member of the legislative body. We have a really, really nasty. The full legislative body must present the letter written to the planning commission member subject to removal. The full legislative body has not addressed any removal actions for any planning commission member. It's right there in there. It's living.
Mr. Hunt, if you don't consider personal service of process actual notice, I don't know how we can serve it to you. I don't know.
Was that delivered to you by the full commission?
No, nobody has received notice from anyone except the mayor. The proper way to have done this is whoever the accusing individual entity would have come before this full legislative body, presented the evidence, we would have voted as a body that we should present the individual for violation of TCA with this notice of a hearing. Then our county clerk would have prepared the letter because she takes care of documentation of this meeting. Then that letter from this full legislative body should have been carried to the planning commission member who has been accused of non-compliance. The mayor's office does have nothing to do with it, nothing.
But you received it within the requisite time.
Not from the legislative body. We have not addressed it. It's never been on the agenda. Never been there.
Mr. Hunt, you're taking the statute, we're not reading the statute. We're getting kind of out there. So, thank you.
I'm not allowed to read the literal meaning of a statute, but you guys are.
Mr. Hunt, you are subject to this vote. You've spoken. I've asked you to abstain. You've done a really terrible job at that. But this is a matter before the commission. You are the secretary. You are subject to the vote. I can advise you that this matter, well, maybe you need to seek independent counsel.
Okay, I'm going to read the statute. In short, the statute provides that a planning commissioner must be provided due process before that planning commissioner may be removed for cause. And then it cites case law. The commissioner, the ECD commissioner, or the county legislative body, whichever the case may be, in this case it's the legislative body, must serve written notice on the planning commissioner explaining that removal of the planning commissioner is sought for failure to attend the required training and continuing education courses, and/or for failure to file the requisite statement that indicates that the planning commissioner attended the required training and continuing education courses, period. That's one sentence. In there, it does not mention the county executive officer. It does not mention the county mayor. It does not mention the county legal. It says the county legislative body. That's literal. So anyway, guys, I just want, you guys really needed to know, have clarification. If you guys think the planning commission members should be removed, they are not receiving due process. Does any other commissioner have anything they want to speak to regarding this? Yeah, I would like to say, is anybody out there, you know, this is a public hearing, public hearing, it's a roundhouse, it's not a public hearing. It's Commissioner Bobby Bryan. He's one of the hardest working guys that's ever been here. He served on the planning commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals. Would you like to comment to this legislative body members that are here?
Mr. Hunt, I was here to observe primarily, but I served on the Board of Zoning Appeals up close to the time when I left the commission. And, of course, I received a letter where somebody wanted to replace me on the Board of Zoning Appeals, that being the elected mayor of this county. And for what reason, I don't know. Never spoke to me, never called me. And basically that was it. But these members went and attended, and I did for a number of years, and I can vouch for all those names that are on those papers. They went and attended these training sessions. And Mr. Sam Edwards, Mr. Cunningham's already addressed his qualifications for what he does. Very highly qualified in this area of planning and zoning, probably as much so as anybody in the state of Tennessee. He was a trainer, covered all these different subject matters. And these people took their individual time, went and attended, signed in as that's proof of attendance and being there. This is one of the most ridiculous things I believe I've ever seen done in this county. And, you know, whether it has to do with control and wanting that, but you got very honorable people serving on the planning commission of Caucus County that's protected this county for many years. Planning and zoning is to protect people's rights, not take them away. And this county has done, I think, an excellent job of it. And abiding by this planning and zoning resolution that was adopted by this county, what's been said about the regional areas or groups and single counties is exactly correct and right. But trying to twist, you know, legal jargon in regard to this, it's really sort of disgusting. These people went and attended meetings, spent their time, got the training. There's no question about them getting the training. So the question is, what's this all about? I don't quite understand. You know, this is, was been said by Commissioner, the certificates. You know, these members, they didn't know whether they're supposed to get a certificate or a piece of paper mail. They had a sign-in sheet, and they signed in, and the group that was responsible for that, being in the codes office, it was assumed they just take care of that. But to remove those people because of a certificate, when it's, the evidence is clearly there, they attended these training sessions and spent several hours of their day in these training sessions, so they did what they was asked to do. It's beyond me why this action is being taken by the mayor of this county. I do not understand it. I wasn't going to comment, Mr. Hunt, in regard to this, but being a member of the BZA and even the planning commission at one time, and seeing how things evolved over 30 years, I was on this commission. It's sort of disappointing to see the planning commission being treated in this fashion, especially in light of what I consider a very good job they've done for this county. in this county outside litigation. And just because someone mentions litigation, that's not necessarily a negative toward the county. Sometimes people go that route because they don't get what they want from the planning commission. That doesn't mean the planning commission's not doing their job. It means they may have been doing their job very thoroughly and correctly, and they get challenged. But anyway, appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you for your service to this county. Anybody else want to weigh in? Tim Stubblefield, go ahead.
When you do this, when you receive this certification, stuff like that, and the certification you receive, who pays for it? What do they get after they receive that?
Coffee County pays for
Coffee
ours.
County pays, and how much is that? Just curious.
The price,
I mean, after you receive your certification, I know you got to pay a price to go, but do they receive anything after that? Like if you get this certification, you get X amount of money.
do I get?
No, does any of the members?
Do the planning commission members
Right,
get
planning
paid
commission members.
extra because they're there?
Well, get paid for going.
All meetings are paid the same in Coffee County government.
No, I'm talking about the certification, the training part.
I think we're paid like it's a regular meeting. It's to clarify, planning commission, board of zoning appeals members are required by our zoning resolution to have 4 hours. The codes enforcement office, our staff are required to have 8 hours of training each year. And we always do it together.
And do y'all have any way of, I don't know, and I'm saying this because my former employment where I come from, we had to have 40 hours of training each year, okay? And we run into a similar problem where I worked, and we got busted by the state. And that's been 25 years ago, so that's been all very much corrected since then. But do y'all have any way of self-checking yourself? Do y'all get audited any time for those training records?
Not to my knowledge, we've never been challenged or questioned on it.
Okay. All right, because, and Jimmy can probably attest to that, we get audited just about every other year for our training records, and they have to be done a certain way. They have to be presented a certain way, taught by certified instructors, and it's similar. This is a similar case, kind of. So I was just curious if they had any way of auditing or self-checking y'all to prevent things like this happening.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever, like I said, our training is, I know our instructor, he'll start out by saying, okay, today we're going to cover parliamentary procedure. Will be on today's training agenda. Then we will move to, he loves to tell stories of court cases that everybody can really relate to regarding the Board of Zoning Appeals can apply conditions when we approve conditional uses. And he pointed out some stories in case law where boards of zoning appeals have overreached their authority and apply a car lot. Zoning resolution said they could have he could have a car lot. Well, the Board of Zoning Appeals said, okay, you can have that car lot there, but you can only have 4 cars on it. Well, they took the county to task on that law, said your zoning resolution doesn't say anything. It says you can have a car lot there. It doesn't say how many cars you can have on it. So those are the interesting things that he's trained us with, and we've done a pretty good job doing our job. Mr. Bryan, Mr. Cunningham that I've served with, I've hollered at them. You know, I've served on with both of them, and I've got so frustrated in some of our meetings, and then I apologize. You know, when the meeting's over, I apologize to them, you know. But we do have some heated debates trying to do the right thing, and it has worked pretty darn good in Coffee County. If you look around, I've lost some battles there. There's been some things not approved that I thought should be. There's some language in here that I think ought to be changed, but this body, to change any portion of this, the text in this, it has to come here. And the planning commission just makes the recommendation. That's why this personal liability accusations and all this over-the-top scare tactics placed on these individuals that give up their personal time is ridiculous and should have never been spoken.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get to is there needs to be a way of checking that, whether it be an audit from the state or an audit from the county, checking, you know, to make sure your training is in proper order and that everybody's got it. Now, I don't know, you know, the more I listen to all this talking, the more I get confused. Is it the state or is it the county? But it doesn't, on this, moving forward, I don't think it matters who's over what. I think what matters is we need to, from tomorrow on or whatever day on, we need to audit ourselves, whether the county has to audit or the state has to audit to make sure that these records are correct. Because I know where I work,
May I speak?
we get audited every year.
Mr. Stubbsville, yes, the state audits the actions of the planning commission.
The state audits,
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I encourage the same argument with regard to whether or not the county controls what happens in the planning commission. I encourage that argument before the state. I look forward to listening to it.
because I think that's the only way that would remedy this matter. I mean, you know we're gonna get audited, not maybe every year, but every other year. So, you know, you're gonna have your records right, or you're gonna be going to the state to say why you didn't have them right. And there's some repercussions from that too, so. But something like that moving forward, I think would benefit.
I'm not aware. Do you have any copies of state audits regarding our planning commission or the actions thereof?
Actually, the Attorney General for the state of Tennessee has already issued opinion in this matter. So regardless of how the commission votes in this, you know, there's a way that's consistent with the Attorney General's opinion, and then there's a way that's not. Your votes are your votes. But anyway, the law's not real complicated, Commissioner.
I have a question.
Mr. Cunningham?
Are you talking about the Attorney General's opinion you sent to us?
Yes, sir.
Anybody on the planning commission could have answered those questions. And I respect General Scarmetti very, very much, but there was no decision made there. He just told you what the law was. There was no condemnation whatsoever with that. None.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's a complete statement of the law. And if that be the case, then I don't know what a synopsis of the history of the planning commission statute was required.
I've been dealing with it since 2002, and I've never heard of us getting audited. Okay? Never heard of us getting audited. Now, if the mayor wants to bring all that in here, and you want to bring it all in here, thanks a lot. But I still think we'll stand up to the test.
No, sir. No, sir. That's not an issue about inviting an audit. But this county is audited regularly with regard to government functions.
Absolutely. But they usually don't go checking in the planning commission, Ed, and you know that.
So, yes, so if the planning commission was in compliance and they've done all the training that was necessary that they're saying is to be done, but they're not in compliance because of how it was recorded, whose responsibility was it to record it?
The statute actually says each member is responsible.
Okay, so there's not like a administrative or somebody that keeps up with
Well,
that does
it
that?
says each member is responsible for filing with the Secretary of the Planning Commission, which, as I've stated, I serve as secretary, but secretarial duties at the Planning and Codes Enforcement Office are delegated to staff. Any individual, all these records that are in our packet, I don't know if our attorney or our mayor walked down the hall and got all these records that shows that we were at the training session. They are there and on file.
Yes, sir, that appears in the packet that's before these commissioners.
Mr. Joe Keel.
Thank you, Dennis. Well, I'm here tonight, second time I've ever been to a commission meeting. And, you know, I don't have any credentials. I got my degree in agriculture, so, Mr. North, I can't dispute you. But I tell you what, I got a degree from my mom and dad. And you know what it was? The difference between right and wrong. And this is wrong. You're asking a lady that's been on the council, she's been on the planning commission for 23 years. I think she's done an excellent job. She goes off in January. You got Mr. Paul Elam. He's been on here, I think, 8 years. Don't hold me to all these things. He's been on here 8 years. You're asking him to resign. You're asking Mr. Cunningham, asking him to resign. And I think Mr. Randy Harrell, and then Mr. Dennis Hunt. Why did it take this many years to finally decide that these people weren't qualified to do their job? Tell me that, Mr. North. I want to ask you that question. Why did it go through? How many county mayors? 3 or 4? And then all of a sudden we got a county mayor and he says we're out of compliance. He didn't ask them to go get compliance. He could have done that. He did not do that. I hate to talk about him because he's not here tonight. I think he should have been here. That's just my opinion. But I hate to talk about him not here. But that's my biggest squawk. And I'm just a poor old Coffee County citizen that my taxes are paid though. I do keep them paid up. And I just wanted to come and voice my opinion tonight. And that's all I've got to say.
Anybody else in the audience want to speak?
Do I need to respond? I appreciate your comment. I appreciate your comment. Thank you.
All right, the personnel manual approvals, we have a resolution that appears Juneteenth holiday resolution. Anybody need to speak to that or got questions about it? Coffee County Government 2024 holidays. That's on a sheet by itself. The budget approvals, I know that our Budget and Finance Committee has passed every one of those. Any questions, comments? Notaries, says grants are none. Purchasing resolution, none. Resolution rezoning. Here's an interesting subject. Resolution to rezone. When we rezone property, that is considered amending the zoning resolution. The map that shows all of our zoning districts are part and parcel of this zoning resolution. This rezoning was scheduled for our planning commission meetings. The
Mr. Hunt, should you
mayor
abstain?
did not, the mayor actually canceled the planning commission meetings. So the zoning resolution is an automatic approval because the applicant was not seen before our planning commission because the meetings were canceled. So it became an automatic approval from an automatic recommendation, I'll put it that way. So still the Coffee County full legislative body has to approve rezoning. I think H, I'm sorry, I probably was one letter ahead of myself. G is the rezoning of Murfreesboro Highway on, that's the Manchester, sorry about that. The Manchester Regional Planning Commission recommends. And we can approve or deny Manchester's rezoning request. The H line item is rezoning request that was probably the one that the county did not address. So I'm not familiar with it because we didn't have our planning commission meeting. So there will be a public hearing regarding both of these, and that public hearing will be at 5:30. Now we're at, anybody got any questions about that? Looks like we're gonna set Coffee County Commission meeting dates for calendar year 2024. I think the strategic plan is probably gonna be stricken because of the untimely death of the Strategic Planning Commission member, Claude Morse. And the, speak to it, tell me.
Well, Claude Morse on 11L, which is our dates of our set for our meetings. Claude Morse would be the sponsor, and so would Joe Mike Hodge. And I believe, Joe Mike, are you not, you are the chairman, vice chairman, right?
Vice Chairman, yes.
So I don't know how we're gonna proceed with that without Claude's signature on this, but.
Is that a sponsor signature of the resolution?
Yeah, it's a sponsor. I think is somebody else gonna have to sponsor that with them? Do you have to have do you have to have two sponsors on this?
I don't remember. I don't have my notes with me, don't remember.
Okay. We're on L.
I don't think we had signed it yet. We were.
I mean, it's been to committee, right? I would think any member of the legislative body could sign. All right, that gets us all the way down to reports from committees. I don't think anybody needs to talk about that tonight. Wait a minute. The paramedic, critical care medic, AMT school funding discussion, is that what you want to talk about, Tim?